any given day.
Sure.
They literally find out like 4 or 5 rounds in, so I feel like we find out together.
I think that is the life of a Faze fan.
Yeah. I mean, the interviews right now are, we don't know why we're playing badly. It's Neo saying that, it's Kerrigan saying that, but also intimating that it's individual level. That's a big problem for them. And I'm willing to say that. I mean, I haven't seen like lazy calling out of Faze, right? I haven't seen that actually be a huge issue. I
think at times we can just boil it down some lackluster individual play.
Yeah.
You know, Counter-Strike at the end of the day is a headshot machine.
And motivation outside of majors is another thing. But in the road to ramping to Austin, especially with the new player, you want to have that wind going in. You're not going to get tired once you hit it. You're going to feel invigorated and feel like it's possible. I mean, they could replicate what they did at Shanghai and back at Copenhagen at the first major, but like, how likely is that? They continue to lose in between so much.
Nice hold. Kerrigan from the pit gets his. Elige swings off the flash. Oh, nicely done to finish off Tess.
Wow.
He's lucky that damage there from Kicksand tucked in tunnels. Nico clears out lower.
becoming an unnerving map here for Faze with rounds like that getting lost. Got a very vanilla setup right now. No cat play early. And this is a full buy as well. It's possible with enough space that Falcons take too much time to think. We did see one round come down to last 15 seconds. Sometimes if a team can't find an opening, they got a very... All right, we'll have trouble finding direction. But it's Dust 2. You really don't need that much time to get your map control. I really don't like that Faze aren't searching anything at the moment. They just are back in sort of their 32nd position, except not with any info on rotations. They flash clear the mid doors as well. I think the fog of war becomes a little scary here for Faze. Alish has to make an executive choice as to whether or not to come back to Game Helper. And they are sensing the cat split come down.
Just utility to hold it back. Fire to make it awkward. Nico doesn't round the smoke just yet. We hit 30 seconds. Frag grenade's gonna find its home. Oh, look at that damage. Alish rips some flesh off Bone. Still able to get into the corner of the cross. Alish just found a little pocket on the ramp. Flash above him to try to fight. We hit 15 seconds, still 5v5, and Bomb will go down.
Frozen has a last piece of utility. It's an incendiary.
Alish can't find the mark through the spam until Kicksan traded out after the single kill to Brokey. A little awkward here between TSS and m0NESY. It's allowed for Frozen to step up from spawn, and they anticipate that. He sends a few bullets through. m0NESY sends one back.
Yeah, position revealed.
Lethal will get this climb up from Rain. His head could be on a platter, though, for Nico. Oh, fast one out of Rain. Time to kill's quick. You get the retake in still from top ramp. The boost denies it, and so Frozen turned away with no kit, no time, and no chance at a third round win. Saves the op as Falcons nab a 6.
A situation where a lot happens in this round, and a lot of ways to actually win it back. But the first issue is, again, Brokey missing. Like, they waited in a position where they were actually correct as Alish peeled back towards the A site. Faze didn't have a lot of info, but Falcons were coming up cat. And their long split didn't join up at the exact same time, so they could really focus on it. And they had Kerrigan to watch that position. But Brokey, he needs to hit the elbow cross shot. Like, if he's not blind in that position as an opper, that is your chance. You're only going to get 2 shots if they scale very slowly. If they scale quickly, that's the one. And, you know, you really hate to boil it down to one thing, but that was the one thing.
Sure. I think, you know, you really hate to do it because we've been saying it often lately.
Yeah.
And so it feels worse every time you've got to bring it up, but
also because it's kind of boring, right? Because if Kerrigan wants to go and talk about that round in the future, there's no reason to talk about other issues that happened, right? In terms of staging that moment, it's not as if Falcons pulled Brokey back to go and help out long and throw utility, then he came back late. No, he was waiting there, unflashed. And so as an IGL, you'd say, this is the best chance I can give you.
It may end up being one of the better chances at the tail end of the half. Money is dwindling here for Faze. Brokey got tagged through the door at the start of all of this, so his op's going to be made difficult. Alish will find Kicksan though, some way. Good angle from Catwalk.
m0NESY lo vio en la sombra ahí.
Brokey ends up killing TSS in the mid hold. Excuse me, deep tunnels kill. And so this one gets turned back to Alish, who's going to try to find a second Deagle kill on the round.
Ay.
Missed shot this time, 2 players out. Famas connecting though, Rain, good damage. Magis gets it back. Alish on a reload, calling for that rotation over. It's a confirmation of the last 2 players. Magis getting spammed down, and Alish is finding his. 25 seconds, all they still need. Faze will find that third, as the cat to A site this time doesn't pan out to the Falcons' favor.
Sobrevivió de peo el pelado. Peor que todo, hijo de puta.
Faze's perspective, they have way less to work with, so they'll be jubilant about being able to take this win. And what a shot out of Alish. My goodness. Didn't see that one live.
Qué poronga, va.
It's good team effort there here for Faze, and the half is still in question. It's not going to be totally dominant if Faze pull a comeback off, so we want to keep hope alive.
Got to give up the space, Alish. That constant looming threat of cat play, but it's Nico this time around. Haven't really had to say Nico's name throughout this half. 3 and 7.
Yeah, he had a couple of untimely deaths so far, and unfortunately, this half has been a lot of waiting around from the CT side. They're letting the situations come to them, but this time their lean towards the site is the wrong gamble. However, Brokey makes up for it. Great shot.
There we go. Chance at a second, perhaps.
And playing in front of the utility, he can keep full vision. Knows no one has crossed right side, but they don't have vision on mid.
No, so it creates uncertainty, right? A little question mark here. Elige instead looking to take back control of Cat.
And Falcons won't be able to do too many more things. They're going to walk back in the middle. It's either up Cat or just continue with the B split, but m0NESY starts to join them. This starts to get into the late round, but this is the one that Faze were looking for all along.
Elige just cleared this. We'll see if Frozen remains on high alert. Seems likely, but the timing here, he just missed it. But they're coming up the steps. The timing's going to catch him. 2 CTs just down here, not an ideal position to try to hold. It could have helped if the car player gets his. They just cleared it, and then suddenly Falcons slide out through. m0NESY finds his. More pressure on middle. Faze's inactivity, something we bring up, but then when they finally do go to clear something, they just miss the timing. And it bodes very well for Falcons instead.
The reason you have players guessing in that spot is because they don't know, right? And I think that's the problem right now for Faze. A lot of these CT rounds so far have been starting off in positions that you want to get to around 30 seconds with 5 alive. And because of that, there's no prophylaxis across the map. Falcons don't make some kind of crazy rotation. In fact, they don't even have anyone waiting on Cat. They have to walk all the way back from upper tunnels. They just know that they're not welcome over in B site. And when they take this option that they've actually used a number of times, even in late round spots, Faze do not have the info to stand strong in their positions. Frozen was in a good spot. His teammate was in a good spot. They actually had nothing to worry about. But the problem is they just didn't know.
Lo que le puso,
There it is, that jump down at just the worst possible moment. Kerrigan full exposed as well from Car.
I mean, the setup overall just looks so weak, right? What if they are coming long in this spot? I mean, it would be very late to do so, but Kerrigan's at Car, he would be by himself for a few seconds. They're convinced it's now going to be a B-site take. And again, I didn't see any fakes out of Falcons.
Brokey to post the op early. m0NESY right behind Nico here, peeking into it. Ooh, dude, bro, m0NESY barely comes around that corner.
Believe it, yeah.
Qué hijo de puta, m0NESY lo vio, pero le dejó a 9 de vida, le dejó re tocado.
That's a dirty shot.
Le dejó tocadísimo.
Incredible, really. I don't think he has angle dominance on that at all.
Le dejó tocadísimo m0NESY, boludo. Encima m0NESY se lo dio el brazo nomás y el m0NESY reaccionó bien. Hijo de puta.
It's definitely his style.
And when he feels like there's a crack, he will try to shove himself through it. Has done so here. And Kerrigan's back on those similar positions. Tucks perfectly under Brokey, who still finds the headshot. Now it's Elige's chance. The fact the player on site's gone down will keep him honest. He tucks back into CT spawn. He's got a nade to his name.
Yeah, okay. Didn't go over the railing. They can scoop that back up, and this is where it's always been good for Falcons, but this one kill.
Okay.
Oh,
Brokey, tough one.
qué reflejo, parajo.
Missed the nade.
Not planting for Cat, so
Qué hijo de
Health has to wait for the
puta.
catwalk players to come forward. m0NESY sees all of this as a chance to reposition, but Elige comes through with another second critical kill. You get Magisk on the ramp holding on. Elige jumping up, has spotted him, has figured out the positioning, never showed himself over to Nico either. And so Elige ends up getting an MVP moment in this round to set up Faze on a 4th.
That's a magical 3-cat of Elige with the HP that he had left over. Saves the day here for Faze, maybe saves the half too. So, oh my gosh. Honestly, so careful on that approach. And even though Brokey gets tagged, he nearly also has a miracle round. His first kill is very hard up onto the elbow. Right now, it's only a couple of easy ones that you wish he'd put together, but in general, he's hit some toughies. Chance to 8-4 the half here for Falcons, or get a 5th if you're Faze.
I think that round, in Elige's perspective alone, is a great example of the growth he's had within FaZe Clan. Because we originally talked about sometimes kind of going a little overboard.
Untradeable.
Too quickly, right? And this one, he gets his one. The fact that he could have kind of stuck around in the open, but tucks into CT spawn to go for the frag grenade to soften players up, and a beautiful approach towards ramp using the jump to confirm Magisk and never exposing himself to Nico on long at the same time. Just played that one down to the minutia.
Yeah, he had a savior complex when it came to complexity because it felt like there just wasn't any rounds unless he got 3. And
yes.
He can't have that mentality on this roster. And you can see the active moves in the right direction in that way. Way more responsible gameplay.
Right.
Same good aim. Woo. Wow, same good aim.
Brokey kicking it up a notch here at the tail end of the half.
Absolutely.
And poor Nico still waiting for his chance to shine. Final chance to do it here on the offense.
This half has really epitomized both the Brokey's issues as well as his value in terms of the contrast between the amazing shots that he hit and some of the easier opportunities that he's missed. But now he's evened up his scoreline. This kill's massive. It's on Monacy, who sits 12 and 6 on the other side of the server. And if FaZe want to play a standard map in a round like this, well, it's a lot more justified now that they're up 5v4.
That round, we see FaZe pull off A side at the wrong time. It felt like they were worried about this sort of a door hit. Kerrigan doesn't overdo the utility just yet. It looks like he's going to expose him at the right time. Stall for a second. He tries to chase down Magisk. Loses. We've got Rain. We've got Frozen. 2 players inside B trying to hold off, but with no tunnel control, he keeps it locked in on the platform. Turns over towards window. Now a chance. Tesses. Just gets popped. Frozen. Great job of keeping his head down to hold, and FaZe with a late half answer. 3 of the last 4 rounds, all the way of FaZe Clan Elige topping the charts for what some hope to be a competitor come Austin. Falcons have proven what they're capable of, and m0NESY, yet again, with momentum out of the gate here in this head-to-head tonight.
I think we got maybe 8 out of 10 calling from both teams in that map, or in the map so far, with the, a lot of cap plays from Falcons that weren't like set up amazingly well, but there were a couple of late round frags that ended up winning those rounds. And for FaZe, not searching a ton of information, but getting it together individually is almost inspiring more confidence. So we're here to find out if FaZe can actually close or come back into this map, because now it seems competitive.
We get the head tuck on site in m0NESY. Berettas pop up, insta-kill here. Good helping hand from Elige as Rain collects first blood in the second pistol. Kerrigan finds TeSeS. Man advantage now for FaZe. And the teams look to split pistols at this point, but Magisk has other ideas. We saw one of the better plays and he has offered in recent times pistol, but that one gets swept up, and we've got now, again, FaZe in the driver's seat, but a creepy Kixan tries to crawl forward. Kerrigan ends up getting the better of it, and Nico, again, haven't had to speak of him. Looks for a way to pull this one apart. Doesn't look likely. FaZe, just let him walk out of it. He'll find his one. The trade's right there. FaZe closed the gap with a second pistol win. And so now we talk about 4 of the last 5 rounds.
Yeah, this is looking like a real game suddenly for FaZe. And they've got T-side now. We've got a lot of clean shots. Highlights in one case here for Brokey with his op and his scoreline recovering from the start of this game. This one's now up in the air. And you brought up Nico a few times now. At first it didn't matter because they were up 4-1.
We'll see what that Deagle's capable of. TeSeS kicks it off. Deagle for the element of surprise. He swings, he spams, he gets himself killed. Magisk just combining perfectly with the tunnel's push. Team Falcons take control of the situation. A force by victory.
That's a slippery lower tunnel setup with the upper tunnel's push, and that's even with Elige getting 2 kills in that hold. Rain as well got a frag. That was definitely salvageable, but also really well timed here for Falcons, and you can see how crushing this is. It's exactly the default that FaZe were going in for, and if they knew this tunnel push was happening, they wouldn't have staged themselves on the stairs. However, even though they knew this was a threat, they probably expected better themselves to survive that. Great call for Falcons.
Great execution, too. Nade is on the mark. Kerrigan trying to play ahead of the timing. A bit disconnected from his teammates. He dives back. And I mean, look how much this round has been funded by FaZe. We get 2 Galils and the AK-47 for Falcons. Nade again is just perfection.
And with the kill, it's not unconfirmed. They have a lot that they've learned off of that.
m0NESY hears it coming. Galil ready to go. And we get the answer back from Brokey. Deep angle for TeSeS to play off of, but sitting at 45 health, maybe he wants to give them a little more space. Keeps himself alive. And the CT retake about to get going. They're gonna have to inch their way upwards though. And as they do that, shots continue to rattle out from Brokey. He's losing his teammates. He's found a better gun. He gets himself an additional kill. There's the last man standing in Rain, who is softened up, pelted by those frag grenades. And so we said we didn't have to talk about Nico. He is suddenly right up there. Double digits kills, 10 and 10 with another triple in this one. And Team Falcons to the 9-6 lead.
Yeah, suddenly that small comeback from FaZe I don't think scares Falcons quite as much. Denying the conversion. Getting the second round after that. Back in the driver's seat here for Falcons. Open now that we switched over, we see more inspired calls, I think, from both sides. But I think the onus is more on FaZe than anything else.
testy round for Monacy here. They're not being shy about it as he stomps. And that's fine. Pistols don't mean much until Frozen shows his hand.
Lo que pone,
It's a sliver of an angle he's working with.
Smoking suicide at minute 18. That's an act of war.
Is this just the remnants of Faze kind of emerging from the bushes? Looking like Robin Williams and Jumanji.
Great movie.
Very good.
Ahora se hace un enfrentamiento de 4 contra 2.
So does that mean Falcons are playing chess, but Faze are playing Jumanji?
I think so. Something like that.
Maxi.
They took their sweet time for this. Collect the flashbang, or excuse me, the smoke that's now thrown towards CT. It's MP9 as well. And again, just well supported.
Le contrarrestó el plan.
The line in the sand and end it. Double kill for him. Double digits.
Bien, gordo, pegaste una.
Vitality, who could have been jet lagged and had a championship hangover and had to play the final day. Falcons have 2/3 of that, except they didn't win.
Yeah.
So they got to be hungry as hell, especially with that debut. They want to catch that fire. They're sort of in a position that Mouse were a few tournaments ago, where now they feel, well, they basically got a championship window. There are a few teams in their way, but there's a chance to really impress. And again, everyone's trying to ramp for the major. I'm just expecting all of that to come in front of jet lag. You know, the Vitality streak, Falcons' taste of the grand finals.
Had a chance to get revenge right here, right now in Copenhagen.
I mean, nothing will wake you up like that, you know, more than caffeine.
Monacy, behind box, gets chased down. Oh, kicks in.
He got that?
Instant trade back, goes for second.
Wow.
Into the top of tunnels, down goes Rain.
Lástima que Monos que quedó trabada ahí.
He has found free movement to escape. He will go join Magisk on the B site, and Faze will have to play catch-up 2v4. There it is. A killer of an in-game leader.
Yeah. And that's like you mentioned, his fragging as an in-game leader. It's even another parallel to Glaive when he was at his peak. Calling, he was also a top 10 rifler.
TSS leans back in anticipation and scoops up the first one with ease. Trade frag back from Brokey, sure, but caught with nades in hand. There's the close out of Nico. And majority alive Falcons with a 5-round lead.
Not an easy trade, but one they needed. Him on the stairs right there, or even Kerrigan before he even got up to that position. But what's that? A perfect pre-aim from behind the box. And they see this Monacy dipped out with no one number. There must have been someone close. My goodness, Kicksan turned into that kill. It wasn't even a pre-aim. Falcons are an excellent team to watch right now, and they're really putting their skills on display.
I mean, I think particularly as well on Dust too, like with this, you know, using Nico in this formula, they played it 4 times in Melbourne, won all 4, and like blowout victories over big teams too. 13-3 Mouse, 13-4 Na'Vi. That overtime win over Vitality. Like, you've already tested your Dust 2 against better opposition 3 times with Nico. Talk about reps.
Yeah, progressive overload here. Yeah, and recent records are not looking super strong, of course, for Faze.
So we inevitably go Ancient after this. Question is, how long does it take to get there? Because with these measly weapons, you'd think Faze lose this and Falcons take 12. They fluster Monacy for a second, gives him a chance to collect his breath. Moves back towards long instead. TSS on
Ahí en el humo.
And the pistols find nothing as Falcons on fire. Have
una para
6
ganar.
Points.
This game was close for a second. I mean, it really did feel like it, but when they lost the conversion in the second half, we haven't had any T rounds. Faze, no answer so far. Last chance, Saloon.
Buena molo. Qué hija de puta, está buena esa. Tirar una granada para quitar la visión de ahí.
It's looking to end up a great recovery for Nico. I think his uptick in level is what makes this suddenly look so much more one-sided, because during his absence is when FaZe made it feel like we could have a game on our hands. Four players on Falcons with 13 kills. m0NESY ahead of the rest. Vitality-esque in that regard. Contribution from across the board. Again, they try to keep it quiet. We hit 45 seconds and still no CT to really shoot down. Kixana waiting, gets insta-pop from Elige. Nice kill on his behalf.
No pegaste una, gordo, hijo de puta.
He's trying to run this bomb up. He continues to get pressure offered over. m0NESY continues to collect kills. That's all 3 frags back for m0NESY so far. And FaZe find themselves 2 players strong in sight. This is the duo they wanted.
With the double op scope.
Está entrando Nico por atrás, juro.
m0NESY
Se viene el dúo.
to close out versus a FaZe bomb ticking. Nico's approach is cautious. Fire beyond the hold of Frozen. Flusters him somewhat. Nico's gonna swing out, kill him. From backside comes Elige. 3 kills to his name. m0NESY the same, but he'll go 21 frags for the kid. 13-6 for Falcons, and a statement that continues to put a gap
Se viene el segundo partido.
the number 1 challengers and the rest of the pack here in Copenhagen.
Unfazed are the Falcons as they take map number 1 of this series. Strong showing again, coming off of success into success. It's starting to look very good for the team in green.
Looking great. I mean, that's Falcons coming off of, you know, you had the grand final they lost. They come into here and they're immediately looking good. And there were signs. I mean, FaZe wasn't dead. They weren't dead on arrival, but Falcons looking great the whole way through.
Just always have a plan. I feel like that's where the difference is, not only just in personnel, where you would say some of the individuals like m0NESY and Nico are fantastic compared to the FaZe players, but in terms of the ideas behind Falcons, it just feels like they're always doing something. They're always constructing an idea, a way to get back into a round, and FaZe, to me, just play a little bit more on their heels.
That they do. That they do indeed. But looking at the Falcons side, what was making you happy? What were you seeing that's encouraging here?
I mean, they clearly had a pretty good idea of the way FaZe were going to play. FaZe like to play back off of short. They like to play on the site. Falcons had a bunch of execs, and sometimes the execs were a little light on flashes, but when Brokey's going to be at car and miss, well, it doesn't really matter too much.
Yeah, Falcons just test the FaZe defenses. I mean, FaZe, to their credit, don't give up too many kills when a round just starts. Like, they're not giving up free deaths in the first 30 seconds. They don't look like noobs, but I almost feel like because they want to just play and almost like test the execute, it's like Falcons are going to have great ideas of how to close rounds. Like, they have excellent finishers when they have people in advantageous positions like Catwalk. They know how to construct a good mid to B or a good cat play. And if you're FaZe, you just have to hit every single shot, and that's kind of unreasonable to expect of every round.
Yeah, when you look at Falcons, it's start to finish with Falcons. You know, you look at them, they have these openers in mid in the first couple gun rounds where they punish people that are playing towards CT, and then you go for some mid Bs later in the round, later in the half, and you really punish the adjustment to that. And I think that's what makes Falcons so good. It's top to bottom, beginning to end with them.
Now, the true trick to a compliment sandwich is you start with the good, you sandwich in the bad, maybe go back to the good. We'll find the bad here, Vu. This was around round 7 you were very concerned about.
Yeah, round 7, I think, is just a perfect example of what we talked about in the pregame, which is FaZe, they have the right idea. They have the rotation into the right spot late on the round, but they can't put it together, right? You have the initial entry on long, okay, 4v5, not a big deal. You have 2-3 players outside of B, but you pull out a nade. We have the nade pull out outside of B. If he just kept his gun out there, then he trades and it's not a big deal, but then you lose your 2 B players. Nico, credit to Falcons, he's in a great spot. If they get those kills on B, he's going to get that flank, he's going to get the kill, he gets that kill. Now, if FaZe just shut down the B side, then Nico kind of looks dumb, he's just sitting out in mid, he's not going to be able to get anything done. But because those entries happened on B, Then Nico gets the kill to close out the round. That just looks amazing for Falcons.
And also just playing, I think the positions from Faze there are a little bit awkward too. I mean, Carr and like the mid-B rotator spot, no forewarning for them to even be really too close. Like, yes, when you're in Carr, you can hear a little bit more, like you can hear deeper into the tunnels. But in terms of the crossfire, that it's hard to assemble one that's all too effective with your mid to B guy at the same time.
Now, I've made you put the meat in this compliment sandwich. The meat's never quite as tasty as you'd like it to be. Now we can get back to the good. Falcons looking very nice. Those around here you had, Maui.
So this is kind of almost the opposite of what we got from Faze in round number 14, that you lose the pistol round. And this is just my favorite second round that any CT team could run. You do a tunnels crunch with the weaker weapons, and it's just so many teams want to run through their default on these anti-ecos by going through tunnels. And this to me is just one of the most meta ways to play against that. Like, yes, if you're on bad weapons, there's only a few plays you can do. And this one's just always, it's seizing the round by pushing into tunnels like that. It's using the effect of the MP9 to the fullest by just like jiggling and just strafing left and right at the bottom of the stairs. It makes it a living hell to be in those tunnels if you're the Faze clans, guys.
Yeah, there's ways you can try and deal with that, but really the reality is you're still going to have to take some gunfights. You're still going to be fighting semi-close range against Deagles, against MP9s. The problem is we both just highlighted 2 anti-ecos that Faze lost. That is Faze. They had, when it comes to the gun rounds, they did really, really well in general, but you put them on anti-ecos, then they just lose them. They just fumble them, and good play from Falcons, but Faze has to be better.
The edge is showing here. The gaps showing perhaps, and a guy who exploited those gaps, a guy who's been a real delight to watch in his new jersey, Monacy.
I mean, the gap was massive here between him and Brokey. Like, for Brokey, who was having difficulty just defending against normal cat executes, Monacy was taking these rounds by the horn. Like, he was hitting shots that turned the tides of rounds. He was sealing the rounds where he's supposed to. That shot on Elige right there is crazy, where you just see the hole in the smoke and you flick perfectly right in the center. It wasn't even like I don't even think he shot the arm of Elige. Like, his precision is so much further than any other opera right now in terms of just in blindingly fast flicks. He is so much more spot on the target, and Brokey on this one, I mean, he had opportunities, he really did, but it's just like, I wish he took just more opening fights. I wish he was a little bit more pressed up, because Falcons are using a lot of utility to push angles that Brokey never even played.
Yeah, Brokey, that's one of my biggest complaints of Brokey, is that he just plays he's too interested in the mid-round. He's not getting those entries early that you see operas make it easy for their team, that Monacy does all the time. He gets those opening picks, he turns into a 5v4, and then the round plays out really simply. Brokey plays more in the mid-round, and so when things are going wrong, they're going really wrong for him and the rest of the team.
It's like he puts himself into a corner to start the round. It's very strange. Like, there was a round where we didn't really take this one because it's just like Falcons threw a molly to molly the top cat angle. Then they were like, oh, the molly's not good. Let's throw a flash there. Okay, wait, they didn't like the flash. They threw another flash there. Brokey was never even there. Like, Brokey was never even in the spot that Falcons were trying to use all this utility to push off. Like, that to me tells the picture of, like, he needs to just take a few more of the meta spots in the beginning of the rounds to just punish Falcons. And yeah, sometimes you have to back up because of utility. That's fine, but at least you're challenging them and pushing them and forcing them to use utility.
I think that game was actually a great example of what Brokey plays like, in that he had several good rounds. He had a couple of good short holds. He had a pistol round I think he did really well in, but the most memorable round from Brokey, it's the miss he had on short when they're coming up in, I think, round 6. They're coming up short. He misses an easy shot. They lose the round. They lose momentum. Puts them in a terrible spot. So although he did all right, he just can't be missing shots like that. It puts Faze in such a bad spot.
Feels like every time that you're starting to get positive on him again, something will happen in a round where it's just unfortunately unsustainable at this level of play, right? Now, somebody who did provide a bit of a bright spot here, Elige coming through, looking good again. There's dialogue to be had there. We're still getting the performance out.
It's just not enough, though, unfortunately. There's too many cracks in what Faze is doing, and Elige was pulling some of these rounds back pretty desperately. He had a great spray transfer in this round, for example, and it almost feels like Elige is shaving off these players more than Brokey, and I think that's kind of the weird dynamic that's going on with Faze right now, where Brokey was never an aggressive entry opper. Like, he was never always like forcing the issue, trying to get that opening pick. But when Elige is doing it way more on the CT side, I do think that's a bit of a problem. I do think, like, at least positionally, Brokey should be a bit more forward, and it shouldn't just be on Elige to try to push and, like, get these, like, crazy 1Ds all the time. Like, I feel like the gun that's easier for the job, this might be a hot take, is the op. Like put the op on these spots and just see if he can just get one free shot and fall off.
Yeah, I mean, Elige, when it comes down to it, he's always going to look pretty good. He's very rarely has a terrible game. Maybe he could be a little more consistent, but the reality is he's always going to look pretty good. The question is what else has been brought to the team if he meshes perfectly with the team. We saw in one of those highlights, that lower push from Falcons, he turns back to look upper tunnels, gets shot in the back from lower tunnels. Maybe the point was to full clear lower, but he's always going to look pretty good. He's never going to be the reason they lost.
Well, he may have gotten shot in the back, but we're going to be right back after this. The furious Falcons find forward progress on map number 1, but
You tried.
Faze find fury. Mostly at themselves, I suspect. Not so good for Faze, very good for Falcons. We're headed to Ancient now, gentlemen. Will things be changing?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, yes, in that I think they did pretty well on gun rounds. This time, Faze, they're just not going to fumble the anti-ecos. And then we'll see an overtime game.
Okay.
And if you want to look at the footage that we've got here, Faze took this to overtime last time against Falcons. It was Dexter, obviously, instead of m0NESY. And we haven't actually seen this Falcons iteration, this 5-man lineup playing Ancient yet with m0NESY. I have no doubt that m0NESY is going to slot in well. I don't think there's much mystery about how good he is on Ancient. It's not like it's the first time he's played the map or anything like that. So we don't have to guess too much regarding this, but I think that I thought Faze was going to come out with a little bit more there, and now I have a bit more hesitation in rooting for them, even though I thought this is going to be the tournament that they turn things around. But I'm kind of seeing the same that I've seen it last one.
This is the map they turn things around, then it's the tournament they turn things around,
all right.
and then they win the major. No, they don't.
Alex likes this.
I can't end with that.
I like this theory.
It's too much.
I like this theory. I mean, you have you seen those memes where it's like guys after a breakup, girls after a breakup,
Yes.
and one starts sad and one starts happy, and then it reverses.
Yeah.
Maybe that's Rops and Faze. Rops, he's having the time of his life right now. Faze, they're eating the ice cream straight out the carton. Maybe it's time for a hot Faze summer.
So you think this is it? This is the moment, Darf.
Look, if there were to be a moment, it could be this moment.
I mean, I came into this one like fighting dust at a dark desk, saying that they're gonna bring this one back. So I'm gonna find some reasons here. I mean, this is a map where I really think that the duo of Frozen and Elise is great. I really think that their mid control, especially on gun rounds, is very solid. Their spacing is good. This is a map where FaZe actually have good utility ideas of how to take middle from opposing teams. I think CTs in general are having a hard time fighting for mid on this map. And so I think that this is a map where Kerrigan knows that space is carved out for them in the middle of the map. It's up to him to mid-round to find solutions for finishing, which to me shouldn't be the problem. For some reason, their T-side had nothing to show for it on Dust 2.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason this is FaZe's best map. This is the reason they picked this map. They're comfortable on it. They're great in middle. The last time they played, they did very well in middle as well, and that's what brought them to an overtime, to a win, to map 3. That's what I want to see here.
Well, look, they're getting up there a little bit in age. Solutions to finishing can be hard to come by, but two guys who will get you going, get you excited are casters, Scrawny and Launders.
I'll get you going. I'll get you finished too if I have to, Mike.
I'll spit on you, Mike.
Better be careful, buddy. Thank you for your insights, gentlemen. It's time to go into map 2. I think that the desk is saying it best. If FaZe have any chance, it's here on Ancient. We know what they do on this map, Mo.
Yeah, I mean, they could play into overtime, double overtime, triple overtime, and give us a show. But I think the problem right now for FaZe is getting there. You know, if they get extremely warmed up, like I feel like that's where the motivation clan comes out, and then they play at full strength. We saw it in rounds in that match where they could really impress, but at the same time, one round on T side, back on Dust 2, and Falcons, just no questions in terms of how good they were on both halves. So I don't think they were ever really truly scared. They even had a lot of time for Nico to warm up where they were still winning. So I'm not really seeing the upset just yet. And that's why FaZe want to try to have a strong performance here at this tournament, even if it is just a major on their minds.
Yep.
I think it's Falcons who can more easily see themselves in the finals now that they come off of Melbourne, and having that long-range vision sort of as a team comes with the results. You can't deny that. Even if you know you're good enough to be there, in terms of the belief, nothing's better than the results.
Se viene el partido de Ancient. Y Falco tiene la oportunidad máxima de ganar. Mones sí ha jugado este mapa un montón de veces.
Ends the game, you know, like plays a role in that force buy that just completely put FaZe on ice. They never got an answer after the pistol win. They just looked flat.
That's a good point about him, that
Nico hit his point.
He's not one of those players who needs to have a good start.
Yep.
It just never matters. He's always going to look for his time to get back into the game, and
doesn't have to be somebody, I think, that like contributes as much on the T sides. Like, I just love a Nico defense. Immovable on his best days. Ooh, Kickstand's gonna get popped here by Brokey. Nico double off the pistol. So he'll start the CT endeavor well. And that gives a little timing here for Magisk, who's a bit concerned about middle. Has a reason to be.
Yeah, he's also just got a great spot in Donut.
Now Falcons come flood forward through mid, confirming his flank is clear. That's going to free him up to go forward. They're not going to stop the bomb plant.
Plantaron la bomba encima de los hijos de puta.
But Elise gets his head popped by Tesses, and that is 4 players just charging down Frozen. A P250 muted. Triple kill for Nico in the pistol. Bodes well for the Falcons start.
Kind of just got caught here. They're set up outside. B got exposed. Their kills didn't go their way for FaZe over on the A site. So not a great beginning to map 2. Oh, look at this, man. It's just, 2 players turned around.
Very quiet. Nice.
Not gonna lie, it's been depressing casting FaZe recently, but I think that's, I mean, I'm not saying that in isolation. I think everyone feels that way, but it also feels, I think, to everyone like, yeah, but it'll end soon. You know, there'll be someone back. I mean, it's just a question of when, and will it be too late?
And maybe
even the Roman Empire falls eventually. Right. You know, who knows?
And maybe this version of Faze, you know, needs more changes. And at what point is it no longer the same Faze?
How many planks of wood can you replace?
Yeah, before it's a new boat. How many layers of skin do you shed before you're a new person?
How many times you have to spit on Mike for him to change?
Ai! Ai, Mark.
Missed chance here for Rain. Difficult shot on that gap to Cave. Elicits a reaction in utility, and m0NESY, almost given a gift there, but Kerrigan dodges death for a little while. Feels inevitable when rifles in hand for Falcons and pistols for Faze, and they get turned away from the mid play. There was a conversation on the desk about middle for Falcons on Ancient. When you've got m0NESY and Nico floating out here together, you're gonna have a bad time. Or at least a tough time. We'll see what kind of toughness Faze offer in the matchup tonight. But so far, so good. Just completely quelling the threat of those pistols. Bomb spotted late.
No fue muy bien, no fue muy bien.
And poor Frozen with
Faze el eco.
down at the hands of Magis. There's the conversion from Falcons, something Faze still haven't been able to do in the series.
Well, and as sad as it is to see Faze sort of in this shape, it's been incredible to see Falcons with this lineup. I mean,
yes, sir.
I just was a fan of the game, and for me, m0NESY and Nico are my favorite duo in the history of you know, between CSGO and CS2, just period. Watching them play together, so dynamic, so explosive, so many highlights, such great chemistry, and I feel like that was cut short a little bit. So it's just been a joy to see them playing again, even if it's in a New Jersey.
Liege makes quick work of the crossover, finds nothing out middle. You know there's that looming threat of the duo we just saw, Nico and m0NESY, but right now both of them allocated to the red room. What this is a good timing up ramp. They try to keep it quiet. Kicksan instead finds Kerrigan with head turned. Good wide swing out from Rain to make up for that. And so man advantage canceled out. TeSeS is surrounded and softened up. Great frag grenade damage. And Rain almost exposed to what will be the two players retaking from CT. Alicia's dead. That's Nico retaking in from mid. Opens up TeSeS to turn attention back to site. A smoke on short side. And now an extra layer for the Cave retake to come through. Bombs beyond the halfway point. You've still got Brokey facing the smoke, waiting. Rain gets his chance at second servings. The jump over makes it weird. Brokey down. Nico in with critical kills. TeSeS on top of Bomb. Both the other players low.
Nice.
But low is still enough.
Oh man, they do it. Such low time on that defuse. Nicely done for the Falcon. Man, that smoke that they used on the retake, instead of smoking really aggressively towards long, they left Rain a little bit of space, but allowed them to fight up towards short as well. Now that was smoked as well, so they had to wait out their own smoke in the end. But I think that was really difficult for Rain to figure out how to get more impact when he wanted to fight them back in CT spawn. And I think, again, you can see how this comes down to the final second, but it's really calculated perfectly because every piece is in place, and all those shots are very hard to hit for Faze in the end.
Instrumental moment from Nico as well, catching Alij early to kind of get himself into Cave.
Yeah, that too.
I think that whole retake and the smoke you're alluding to looks more awkward if not for the retake from Cave emphasis.
The smoke could definitely be bad for the T side if Nico wants to try to abuse it.
T's put down another one in front of m0NESY. There it is, his chance to strike.
Te pasé uno, te pasé uno.
Of this push, and now
Kicksan.
confirmed Alij spotted out.
Kicksan, no me viste. Qué hijo de
Not be a
puta.
chance to pick up a weapon. m0NESY quick move back. Nobody actually pouncing on him. Brokey gets a deep angle headshot into CT spawn. And now do they contest the bomb plant? Yes, indeed. Rain's cover, not enough. TeSeS trades right back. And you know Rain's back here on half health versus 2. CTs need to be split with him in the middle. And the bomb's on the corner of the site. He'll slow this down at a minute. Why not?
They really trust their positions, and they know when they've got a good one. Rain's got to pick this out, but man,
m0NESY scoped.
rocking a hard place.
Ooh, this shot though puts him down to 1 health. If not for 1 HP, then suddenly this 1v1 feels locked in. There's a certainty to Rain at the moment. He exposes just a little.
Man, it was just a bait for m0NESY to get closer, and he did that when he was low from Donut. That is such an unlikely fight because Rain knows that he's hit him down low, and he's got the best angle to fight the post plant. But it's m0NESY who's actually lower in HP, which made more sense for him. to come in on that approach. My Falcons, I think one of the most impressive parts is just like in their debut, it feels like they've got a lot of comms off chemistry. They know when they've got good positions, they know how to play together. And of course, there's pre-existing relationships that help that out, but it's impressive nonetheless.
Yeah, that's right, Sonic. You tell him. I did hear somebody barking on Falcons just now. Did you pick that up?
Is that iShow speed?
No, I don't think so. I think it was Tessus.
Ronaldo.
This man here. Looking real comfortable. Mug in hand. Just an easy day in the office so far for Magisk. There's that walk up at Amonisi. Taking the risk on 1 health, right? Just coming at him slowly but surely. 1 health, dude. If not, Rain's got you locked in the corner. Tough pill to swallow if you're Havard. That's Havard Nygaard, a.k.a. Rain. Speak of the devil. Ready to go outside of cave.
Nothing bad about the approach here from Faze. They've got full vision on middle. It's Falcons who have to deal with the fog of war. 1 shot gets missed from Monesi. Not too impactful so far. He can still move around freely.
Ouch.
Oh man, a shot back in that spot. It really hurts. Rain's always the one to come out ahead on those spams.
Not this time. I mean, you sign up for it as well. Like, you're willing to take a couple body shots. The fact it's this, like, trailing dink.
So util decisions right now that matter the most.
Monesi versus Liege. Doesn't pick up for the offer. Tessus, though, gets popped in the process. Monesi missed shot. Still alive. And this time, low health. Not enough for him to collect another. So, man advantage post-plant here for Faze Clan.
La desventaja del AWP es cuando si disparas tenés que cambiar muy rápido, pero no sé si se gana. Monesi no, no se gana.
Little posturing going on, and great damage early. More utility just rains over top. You've got Brokey along the wall, but Kerrigan swaps onto Monesi's AWP.
Parece que va a ser una ronda para Faze.
Not to mention Brokey, deep peek to Nico. Magisk, the sole survivor. Faze have found their first.
Kerrigan up, baby. That was the key. Low HP bars, but Faze kept a lot of numbers. This round's pretty simplistic in terms of the group up towards the top of Banana, but what it comes down to is he hits his shot, but Tessus dies without a kill. If they both got one, then they could really put up a formidable defense over on B. But for the most part, it's Faze who got so close to those choke points. They could even afford to lose a leash, as we could see. And it's not as if Tessus threw utility at the wrong time. That molly actually has some effect, but it's not big enough to push them far enough away from being able to defend that easily. So I think you could see from Falcons, they just wanted a little bit more utility a little later on in that spot, and they weren't comfortable deciding that it was going to be a B play. They also don't get a lot of information this round. They let Lee search out middle, and again, you're going to be a slave to rotations or watching long flanks if you don't get information back at different intervals in the round. Like, what did we see in that Vitality game last match? Every single time. They didn't believe that a piece of map control was being taken and a player was being left over. They went and searched it back. Now, you could do that and have the wrong call and then end up bleeding out on players, but you can also crush your opponents if you're correct about it and approach carefully.
Pressure here, and so he'll go down with nothing. Back-to-back rounds, Tessus dies empty-handed. This time earlier, of course, and this time without Monesi behind him. Timing off the block.
Mira antes, Nico.
Saw Liege wary of it.
Yeah, another moment here for Falcons where they're flying blind. You've got 3-player B stack. Not always the worst decision when you don't have numbers, but mid control working really well here for Faze. This split looks treacherous.
Nico's going to hear the rumblings of the commitment. Here it comes. Utility blinds him out from main. Oof, gun probably sticking out. Still trying to pull something off. The fact that he ends up killing a Liege with Kerrigan in front of him, with those 2 players over towards main testing him. But the reality is there's still nothing else behind Nico. So if it wasn't all, it's this. Nothing. FaZe Clan put bomb down to secure a 2nd round on this T side.
It's good to see they're using a Liege to his strength. I mean, he's 1 in 6, but he's getting mid control. He's not getting contested. That's why there's basically nothing happening for him in his favor. But these last couple of rounds, that vision has allowed for splits that are working out really well here for FaZe. I'm kind of surprised we aren't having Falcons just challenge them, like especially after what we saw in Dust 2,
right?
Especially after what we've seen from them at Melbourne. But expect that to actually be an upcoming answer, to be honest.
Surely.
Fighting into elbow control just
they'll shift
right
into
away.
Gear. You'd think, anyways. Especially with Nico playing as well as he is. Did a really good job of dodging Kerrigan on his approach. Can't help but feel bad for Liege in that one, actually.
And there's also the chance that FaZe, try to take an open fort A site if there's an overreaction in towards mid control. We don't know when that's going to happen. Falcons obviously don't have the most to work with right here. But they'll at least challenge it. And those are those FaZe grenades to try to defend against mid takes from the CT side.
Kixan down, MP9. Not long for this one. And the USP of TESS already turned back through Red Room.
FaZe used those nades so well.
Yep, really well timed, in terms of throwing that out at the start of this game. And a round where they just wanted to throw the little that they had down into elbow. Everybody gets pummeled by utility first, and it just even dispatches the idea of Falcons. Their opening gambit dissipates. Magisk will connect 1 inside of A main. That's at least 1 rifle known on that half of the map. Monacy, the 2nd here, tucked in low.
Una pelea de 4 para 3.
Not ideal, but with the element of surprise, maybe. Liege seems like he is locked in on it. Ooh, writes it off. Ends up being the damage done. Now a Nico Deagle that could have offered something more, but instead Frozen clears out both the heavy hitters from Falcons. And Magisk, despite the A main hold, is chasing the majority of FaZe at this point. We'll get away with the climb up.
Yeah, should have been
unheard
as well, but with Reen expanding this way, I mean,
if only he had a kit. A kit and a little self-belief would go a long way. Brokey leaving. Does he take that swing?
No, I'm really curious what happens next round again. We didn't have that much money here for Falcons, but they did try to fight elbow. And we'll never find him. Hiding in plain sight. Again, this round assisted. I mean, they have better guns, but also because they use better utility. They hit him as they were trying to run boost in towards elbow. That's a FaZe special on this map on T side. They are very good at doing that.
Yeah, of the 3 players that end up going middle at the start of the round, 2 get hit by nades. That stops them from actually having support for Kixan.
Wow, I'm shocked to see the Falcons just kind of give this up again. I think FaZe half expected them to run down middle, but what this opens up, since they didn't use their early utility, is a late timing to take over mid control.
We see them gearing up for it, and the Liege, it's an instant dink for him to have to deal with. Frag for Frozen's feet.
Ooh, that works a little too well. They didn't have to use much of their brain power to put those nades together. Just 2 perfect hits inside of elbow, pushes them back, and now they want to search to other avenues. They don't fully expand, though. I mean, everyone is still here on the T side waiting to fight.
All of the deterrence offered so far, really just in the form of Magisk, that dink and the nade that followed.
It's kind of a weird move. It's just like doesn't feel very powerful from Falcons, so to speak. Look how close they are to breaching this B site now.
Rain versus MP9
¿Por qué? Ah, se le dieron, se le
I
dieron.
see them playing retake.
Tessa's gonna be
Está hecho
worried
frito,
about the
amigo.
cave exit.
No.
Kickstand's gonna. Oh,
¡Chisa! What the fuck?
That element of surprise still.
Pero si el otro no lo vieron.
SMG doesn't finish the
Nico
job.
ni
Will
el otro ni lo vieron.
finishes frozen. That's that flank going down towards elbow. Oh, but while they may have been
Qué
corralled
pija
inside
que
the
están,
B
vos.
site, Rain gets the difference maker to keep man advantage in Faze's hands.
I'm happy for him because, oh my gosh, he almost just died after holding an angle for 15 seconds.
Qué pija que sean, vos.
Falcons were in such a good opening position this round. Still enough to go for the retake, of course. Monacy kit on his belt.
Smoke's actually a little awkward.
He tags him inside of that smoke. We're beyond the halfway point now. Monacy's gonna have to tap it to try to elicit a reaction. Rain comes up from ramp, collects the first kill. Monacy bested by Brokey, and Faze tie this game up. That felt like Falcons for the taking.
It did. I think it's very weird the way that they played in middle. It definitely looked like they were scared. I think I love the way that Faze played it this entire round, where they were anticipating more aggressive mid control, and even though it didn't come, they went in to take it late. And when Falcons didn't even approach outside of elbow, they just held back and made sure it wasn't pushed. Then they went over to B because they know Heaven's safe, and they can go back for that long rotate. So I think everything Faze did right there was beautiful.
Go will match long,
so to speak. Look how close they are to breaching this B site now.
Rain versus an MP9 on long.
¿Ves? Uno lo dio a Carriga, pero si sabe que está ahí.
They see them playing retake.
Tessa's gonna be worried.
Qué pija que
No
yo.
reason for Faze to overplay their hand, but they'll pop open smoke to keep the pressure up, and Tessas gets caught. Nice passive hold here from Alish. Faze really starting to come into their own on this T side.
Yeah.
Están rotando para otro lado.
And it's not been so much Alicia's individual level right now, but his willingness to take over mid that's really yielded a lot of map control for Faze. Oh, the boost is so well timed.
Hey,
Kickstand, obviously, with his timing, has just offered this back to Kerrigan for the kill. Taps him out of the round. Really ensures that this B site is prime for the taking. Monacy, killer deagle shot.
Yeah.
And they could take a swing at this if they choose to. It's a big ask.
Salió.
Nico's peeling back.
Yeah, I understand. AKs in hand, Kevlar for Nico. You gotta call this one quits, and FaZe Clan take a lead on the T side, 5-4.
Not surprised to see FaZe get back in the lead. I am happy to see them playing this well, though I will say it's very perceptible the ways in which Falcons could try to take this game to the next level. There's still time in the half, I think, to get the best out of both these squads. But for now, that lead has vanished for the Falcons. Falcons and FaZe have now made this a real game.
Terrorists win.
Can I get one drop?
And we also have to remember that Kickstand is it's a very new age IGL. I mean, he has been gifted players that I think a year ago could not ever have imagined playing for, calling for.
No.
And yeah, he's definitely a rough gem at the moment. We see amazing games out of him, amazing tournament runs, amazing individual level, but still some inconsistency on all fronts.
Kerrigan into mid, catches a bullet from Nico. And very quickly, FaZe know what they want this round. They're going to try to flood into this A site. Pressure is on. Monacy finds
Monacy le pegó ahí esta mierda.
And there's not much they can really do to stop bomb from going down.
Good
job of covering off the attack. The untimely attack.
Nico y Monacy están
The
juntos ahí.
inevitable retake still being queued up here. Spam fight from Alish. Doesn't end up connecting, so he'll take up a post plant in the middle of the pack. Doesn't feel like a lot of comfortable positionings here for FaZe, but Brokey to try to hang on as this inevitable donut play goes through. Utility flushes him off of his chosen position.
Nico.
Still now behind the big box.
Ay, madre.
First one's found. Pressure's on. Second shot's good. Third smoking, but the fourth is elusive.
That was close, Brokey. Really turned it up right there. Nice try.
La
But
concha de tu madre, Brokey.
is all that Falcons care about. Whew. Close. A damn near 3v5 out of Faze. And a hell of an attempt at the clutch.
It's a very swift reminder of what he can do in those sorts of pressured, insight post-plant positions. Nico runs him down.
So this was the sort of round that I was expecting. It's the feign here this time from Faze on mid control into the overcompensation for Falcons into let's run into the A site because they're gonna double down on mid. But the way that Falcons played it, they fought into mid, but they didn't commit all the way down. They didn't jump up to try to take B control, and that would have been more favorable, I think, for Faze. And then all the while, you have the kills happening in the direction of Falcons. Yeah, it comes down to a 1v1, but for a moment there, Falcons were in full control of that retake. Lots of time, utility, players.
They flush him back. We've seen TeSS caught by that molly and then killed by it. The follow-up attack, that is. Oh, again, they're going to try this little creepy walk-up timing from Kerrigan. Just gets m0NESY done and dusted.
m0NESY.
But here comes that third layer of the B-side defense. Brokey just waiting on this angle. Now has an M4 in his face. Doesn't give a damn. Tech9 to the head of TeSS. Magisk and Nico. And he falls back. It had gone unnoticed. Brokey is not going to miss this chance. Under pressure again in back-to-back moments. Nico's been found out by the jump up of Elige.
I mean, throwing the smoke and then fighting down the ramp. That was literally telling someone that you were going to punch and then throwing it. So, Brokey, shot missed. Nope, 1v3 this time here for Nico. Faze will pick up this round. Some good entries for them. It got a little messy. I thought there was someone on Falcons going to save it in that spot, like as they were coming in, but little unlucky as well for m0NESY. Definitely not expecting on that second that they were going to be running up the ramp. Not often you see him get caught off guard like that, but great round out of Brokey. I think there was that moment where they went to smoke ramp, and it's like either smoke ramp or just fight it, you know? But he threw the smoke, and then it's very obvious exactly when he's going to peek and from where.
I was stunned by Brokey just saying so stagnant on the short hold. For a second, I thought he'd like lagged out of the game. He just sitting on top ramp, not moving. But he's now piecing together a bit of a highlight reel, whether he finishes off the clutches or not. You can feel it kind of boiling, you know, it's starting to brew. His impact.
I would drink some Brokey beer.
Brokey brew.
Latvian lager.
This M4 on the field feels deadly with Nico's form. 15 kills to his name, trying to slide up, catches Frozen, looking to clear back Donut. Brokey bested. It's the Nico show on his own. TeSS looks to come help, but no help needed. Triple kill for Nico again. 18 and 6 on the top him, and that's going to tie things up. Pop, so Nico trying to keep the team in it, but he does well on the CT sides. It's the attack up next, where the questions lie. 18-6 on the half. Nico holds up his end of the bargain, and the defense of Falcons posts 6. A couple rounds sprinkled in at the end, maybe shift the momentum back. But, well, pistols have been Falcons' favor, and they'll be kicking it off on this T side, Mohan. Do you have high expectations for the Falcons' close?
I am a little undecided after that first half. I think we saw some good rounds, but I think Faze had some better rounds that responded well. I feel like both teams are not playing at 100% right now from the perspective of calling, but Faze impressed more with the map control and everything like that. I think they made the most of what was open to them last half. So I'm pretty undecided. I think 6-6 is a good place for me to be. Let's see what happens here on this pistol.
Right. Didn't feel like a decisive half, and that's why we sit here, ready to keep watching. Nico will continue early. Double headshot from the Glock. Total cave control, single-handedly from him. Let's put a bow on this one, shall we?
Yeah, might be over before it begins. Maybe if Elige can hit one zinger, then we're in business.
No.
But no, it'll be Nico with 3.
Okay, feels like the sky is starting to become the limit for him. 21-6. And at a 6-6 scoreline as well. That means still plenty of runway for him to continue to collect these kills. And Rain tries to do the same on site. Looking to make it costly. Okay. That is 4 kills for Rain.
He's so close to it. Does he have a kit?
Doesn't have a kit.
Oh my gosh, Nico has
Ace?
to run. Let's go for it, Rain. One between the eyes.
You can't morir in the box.
Wow, if he had a kit, he actually won.
Everybody dies. Remember that.
Jugadorazo,
At the
Rey.
end of the day, the king and the pawn go in the same box.
I think the king gets a bigger box before they put it in the ground.
At the end of the day, the king and the pawn go in a box.
Okay. Sold.
Caga de risa, hijo de
Sketchy there for
puta.
the rest of the team, but luckily no kit.
It's hard to be humble when you're stunting in a mausoleum.
Whoa. I think it's pronounced museum.
Nope.
This A site looking prime for the taking with the frozen solo donut hold. Pressure was on Elige with this single M4, but nowhere to be found. So they're just going to try to go and chop their way through an A defense understaffed. Understaffed out of the gate, but clearly ready to come knocking. Elige takes a bunch of spam damage, though. Will that take the wind out of his sails? Looks likely. Rinse and repeat, boys. Take what you've got in this one, try again in the next. It is a Falcons 8-6 advantage.
You do have like a lot of different modes of attack when it comes to Ancient, whether it's taking mid control into going into either your splits or going for extremity hits on both sides of the map. Super viable on Ancient, which I think is really nice for the playbook, especially when you run out of ideas. There's always going to be a round where a team is over-invested in middle control or have 3 on B to start and 2 cave, and you can always just run into A, kill one guy or see nobody at all and take it. But also because both sites are quite retakeable, it makes it viable. And I think it's nice for Falcons to get a round like this out of the way. It's a simple A attack. It's not going to be the last one. And they come away with 5 unchallenged entirely, so their economy gets built up a lot. It's a very like sort of NFL-esque round, right? This exact play is a perfect counter to what the setup was for Faze, and they were just looking to do some damage.
Right. So who ends up with the concussion?
BJ Penn said CT is a myth.
Oh, trustworthy. Again, rinse and repeat. Name of the game. Elige didn't get a target to shoot at, barring a smoke. This time he tries to help out Frozen early. Gonna be boosted over to try to find contact, but nice nade. 93 damage on that bad boy.
Linda,
Nice shrapnel.
Chewy. Crunchy.
Kerrigan, yeah, crunchy, definitely. Yeah.
It was really hot when I was picturing it. All right, Kerrigan, hold of your damn life right here. Oh, maybe it won't just be about Kerrigan, actually.
Yeah.
That's huge. Look at the rotations now.
That's
Kerrigan said, help me.
He dropped this smoke, right? Kerrigan dropped this. delayed the ramp hit a little longer. Rain's Desert Eagle collecting one as well is good because Elige is now on an angle to fight. That is two kills from the single M4. They saved it in the round prior. It is Magisk instead. Hits the dirt.
Big game for Magic today.
Maki!
Catches them off guard.
Fíjame!
And so that gun that didn't get into the action one round prior wins it.
Tenía ahí, boludo.
15th.
All right, man. That's Elige. I thought those kills were going to be for naught, but he actually had massive impact right there. Picking one off inside of middle, making that rotation, and hitting a really difficult spray. This one right here.
That's some PTSD. That's a man who's been in these kinds of close situations, maybe one too many series.
Yeah.
I always wondered at what point, you know, Kerrigan probably says that he
when
plays.
Does it get old?
No, he like plays for these kinds of games, right?
Yeah.
Those Faze classics. It's what he lives for. But I think one day he's just gonna snap.
I think he's just going to become an adrenaline junkie one day and just master jumping out of airplanes or something.
He'll never be able to retire. And I'm all for it.
Oof. What?
Check in PC.
Hey, kind of old.
That's a message.
Perfect timing on the cross spam. Magisk gets away with it.
I feel comfortable leaving this window timing open, but they're kind of exactly correct as to when they need to come and watch it. I think in the back of Rain's mind, he wants to keep it as passive as possible because they're not actually coming in to reclaim mid entirely. But they're tying him up in an awkward way. It's firmly 2 now on B site. Rain can't really move until his A teammates rotate over. A lot of emphasis on these shots, and Brokey delivers.
Not missing at the moment. Neither's Rain. Insta-kill on Magisk as he tries to peek down in through red. Kixan 1v5. I don't think so. Kerrigan queued up to finish. We got a flawless round out of Faze plus a double kill to Kerrigan.
It's a very thoughtful setup here from Faze. Every idea is accounted for. They don't overreact to anything, and they're right about all their reads. Also, this helps. Think about that.
Nico did no wrong.
Just going for a walk in the park.
Little sigh of relief there for Finn. Rounds being strung together now for the defense. And it looks like we got a freebie here for Faze. No denying the best performing player is still Nico, but cooling off. Oh, awkward timing. Still recovers it, at least. And you've got Elige, whose sprays are great to contain the situation. Quad kill for him. Pad those stats as Faze go to the 9-8 lead.
Yeah, that's his warm-up routine right there. It's exactly what he lives for. Sprays like that. It's already much better than Dust 2 here for Faze.
Hey, hijo de puta.
How much more they can do.
No.
Not much more you can do if you're frozen there. Kind of shake it off. The fact
for Faze. It's already much better than Dust 2 here for Faze. It's about how
offered back from the American.
Is it an immediate risk here from Nico? Is he going to move up? I don't think he feels like he has the right. The double layer lurk has happened twice now inside of middle, so it's not as if Faze are going to be completely unprepared for this. Also, with Donut Smoke, they have to respect this timing. It's a similar situation to the round where Faze just cleaned up 5 alive.
This time, though, Faze trying to be a bit more proactive with this push out into the temple.
Bomb survives.
Ultimately puts Kerrigan.
That was a very risky duel from Tessus.
Rain, though, next corner. Will they expect a second one this close?
This is
very cautious with it. Not able to win the fight, though. Rain trying to be the counterpart to Nico's rifle success. Hanging on. It's connecting kills, but still the threat is here. Man advantage. Seconds. Monacy with bomb waits a second. And Elige kind of flashed off awkwardly, but fine. So be it.
Espera, que fija que se llama.
Gonna need better flashes than that. My man, Elise just popping off. That's 10 here for Faze. Very clean. Another round. I mean, they do lose players this time, but it's just as clean. Map control is looking good, accounting for the mid lurks each time. They've killed 2 in mid, both of these rounds. Elise starts this off by finding Kicksan in the front. Sprays have been impeccable.
No, dice el gol de carrera.
Falcons definitely looking beatable compared to Dust 2. I think there was a better potential for a much better half in the first.
Oh, surely, yeah.
In the first half, they left a lot on the table, and they didn't really abuse sort of how good they could be being aggressive. I think, as we've seen from them at their best.
I mean, in stark contrast to Dust 2, the fragging has just fallen off for the rest of the Falcons player. You get this great carry potential out of Nico, but the weight looks a little too heavy. Kicksan 4 and 14, Tessa 6 and 12. They're gonna try their hand again early. Gives a gun over to Tesses. Not what you want to be offering them.
Worst moment. You just had them really scared.
It's all 5 players of Falcons with Kevlar as well. Tess has enough health to hang on to that M4 by the looks of it. You've still got 2 smoke grenades as well, so they could go into a simple execute, try to blanket off any potential rotates. Maybe that is why Faze looked to be signing up for a bit of a ramp fight instead. Spotted, dinked, Kicksan activates.
Holy shit!
Magisk was hitting those headshots like through that obelisk ramp gap.
It's
a little crazy though for my liking. Tries to charge through that smoke. You got to be careful as to not throw back what could still be a retake despite weapons in hand for the players on Falcons. And just when Faze start to have this lead, Tech9s look to break through. But still high potential for the retake. Rain's got you locked into the corner. If Elise was able to win the duel on site, then maybe. Rain, he's got a tall order ahead of him. Tries to push this onto the site. It's going to force them to activate. He's worried about ramp. They send bodies out from the cave, and he's finding damage all over the board here. Time is against him, and he's going to get gunned down by Tesses, who started this with the kill, or the follow-through, rather, from the temple push.
Yeah, I mean, Kerrigan's going to be beating himself up about this. They decided to run it down in the cave, just take any fight they could. They win this Raw versus Kerrigan, who had a very good gun, obviously. And that's obviously becomes stressful. He knows he gives a gun over to a team that's got a lot of Tech 9s. They're ready to get scrimmy because these last few rounds have not been too inspired.
Nice.
It's not like they're being real tricky here, so they needed a round like this. It's bad news for Faze. They had Falcons on the ropes for a second, but I think that's definitely imbued them with a little bit more confidence.
Man, I wish we could see those shots from Magisk.
And then the Kicksan boost, though, as well. I mean, that was nice. Yep.
Just really well tethered between the 2 cave players.
Where's Magisk?
Magisk was inside of cave, looking towards top ramp through the gap of Obelisk with a Tech 9. You know, and he gets I think he gets an assist on both those kills for Kicksan. And I think it's also what caused the second player to kind of turn around for a second. So no doubt throws a wrench in the works. Cuts that lead down to 1, not to mention boosts the economy here at Falcons. Nico again looking for impact, but he's the first victim instead, Elise.
Perfect flashes.
Good fights on mid for the Faze clan.
He just wanted to dip out of that smoke after dodging 1 flash and just take a duel, but a second one came in. Excellent support for Elise.
Good shot.
Off in cave, yeah, it's different.
Magia ahí. A ver si salió uno.
So obviously being hurt by everybody.
Not only does he flash himself, but then his smoke misses because of it. He was hoping to smoke off that potential B rotate. If no deaths happen on A, then Falcons really don't have a chance regardless, but still.
The structure's coming apart a little bit, right, for Falcons.
Ooh, but still, the CTs now in spawn would have otherwise been. We have to remember that error that Tesses has made. The fact he reignites the possibility, though, we'll see if it all pans out. You've got Monacy full health. You've got a much removed Rain at the moment. Brokey on this line.
Tranquilo, Monesi.
Monesi! Double kill.
Monesi.
Jumping back into the crosshair. Tess has 2 critical kills.
Ahora sí.
But the third ties the game.
A full house 2v5 here for Falcons to tie up at 10. It was a done position for FaZe. They almost made up for the last round and then some. This is a tragedy for FaZe and a 5v4 to kick it off with mid control. Tessas ran into window, went back to donut, told everybody.
Igual también estaban retocados.
This round. This is Melbourne Tessas. I would be absolutely furious at the moment if I was FaZe getting to this position.
Poor Kerrigan too, man. Like, he actually ends up jumping after the kill already happens, but then his feet just get kind of clipped out from beneath him. You saw the frustration. He felt like that should have been his trade. Tough pill to swallow for a tied game, and that bottoms out your economy. So now you've got
para FaZe.
a jar for Falcons off of that round.
This is the team that Falcons have become, man. They can make up for what they're missing in structure with individual play, and don't be surprised when it's Tessas recently.
A 3K and a 2v5. We go back to Bucharest versus the Mongols as well. Tessas late game. Ooh, it is a whole other beast. And the Liege is going to be found out in the middle all too easy between the boosted players of Falcons. Desperate to get some kind of activity in their favor. FaZe base of ramp here outside B, frozen. Just waiting. He gives himself up, and so they have to disengage.
This game will be a matter of concentration. We still haven't actually seen Falcons sort of prove more on T side, right? Just individually, they've given themselves now time to get to that better stage of calling, more structure.
This could be interruptive, though. You've got a lot of bodies up inside the cave. Very awkward for Monesi with an op to deal with multiple bodies. He calls for a bit of an assist. Kicksan, what are you doing? Runs in Mac 10 and bomb. Luckily, he has Tessas to come at it from the other side, so it does look recoverable. But going in with bomb like that, that's a crazy move. Confident, we'll call it, because he's got his teammate to tether off of.
I'm telling you, he's Glaive.
This guy just had full confidence that that would be worth it, and it is. You get the multi-kill out of Tessas on the other side, all good.
He calls his team to push cave at the same time as him. And now Falcons are talking about winning, when I think they had some egg on their face for a second.
It's all good. And the off chance that Brokey's pistol holds.
Kicksan talks. He doesn't appear to be a risk taker.
Yeah.
But the way he plays,
the way he pushes buttons,
different.
Yeah,
Jason Statham in these moments.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you brought it up.
Crank.
The teammates he's gone through in the 2 years, like life comes at you fast in Counter-Strike. He makes a name for himself at the Paris Major with Knock, Jacobs, Stiko, and JL.
Oh.
Look at this scoreboard today.
Yeah.
Confident in his teammates to trade out that push.
Ay, casi lo mata. Bien aquí. Lo dejó muy tocado al Cardigan.
Yeah, well, it looks like one more tragedy is all FaZe can stomach at this point, and they won't get the grace of being able to talk about map 3 if they lose here. They've dug themselves into a bit of a pit right now.
Shot from Brokey. I hate those words, but walks into the scope of Monesi, who is in anticipation of him, plus the smoke towards range, but we get a bit of a grace here offered over back to FaZe Clan. Spin he survives on 1 health. No way.
Maki, quiero retocado, Maki.
We're talking a single smoke here on a leash.
Frag for Frozen. Could maybe finish Magisk if he gets lucky. Opper there towards top ramp, and m0NESY waiting for that retake attempt. Now he misses as well, but he follows up with a second attempt. He's got Nico along the forward wall, and then m0NESY recovers after a single whiff. Oh, Falcons securing 12 rounds off that. m0NESY triple kill as Brokey steps into him. Brokey, who had a chance at the first op kill of the round.
Yes. What here from Falcons, man. They've made it happen. A very confident looking Dust 2 on both halves. A competitive, much more competitive on Asians. But individually, again, unfortunately, that becomes a conversation for them. Not surviving. m0NESY having the better day opping, getting more impact, more sequences, more highlights. Tessus and him having the full house in that previous round.
That's
their own Tech-9 eco.
Man, it was the force buy on Dust 2 that killed any momentum of a FaZe Clan T side. They never recovered from that point on, and we could be looking at the same thing here again. A brutal round to stomach on that A site. m0NESY looking to put a quick end to it as we look at this, desperate purchase out of FaZe Clan. The money has dried up. The MP9s and Mag 7 are out in full force. But so are Falcons. Gets a little awkward. Nico still wants to be the threat out middle. But there really should be no surprises for FaZe. Falcons announcing themselves outside of this site. And announcing's an understatement.
Wow.
Things fall quiet for a second as we go beyond the minute mark.
They're spending all this time just to draw out any utility to make this B site as beat up as possible so they can get in. If no plans to do anything else, and FaZe, I think they half know this, but they don't have the resources to answer back on other parts of the map. They can't push A main in good conscience.
They don't even have the guns to spam these walls back.
Yeah.
It's MP9s and a Mag 7 plus a Deagle versus AKs. All they can do is sit in safe positions, cross their toes, and wait. And Kixan finds first blood with that Red Room kill on Frozen. This Mag 7 could end up being the hero of holding cave, but bombs inbound from ramp instead. And they find it in transition, a little uncertainty.
Ay, ¿qué hace con eso?
Only thing that holds, and it doesn't hold long enough.
Victoria para el Falcon. Muy bien.
Off of a grueling 2 versus 5 situation. They never look in the rear view mirror, and Falcons run away with the close. 13-10 on Ancient. FaZe Clan put to bed in the
Falcon, vamos.
Falcons, who want to make this run deep into playoffs to take a swing at the near untouchable vitality yet again. That is what's in their sights with this easy first opening game.